You know how sometimes a meal leaves you energized and other times sluggish, foggy, or even hungrier? That may be your glucose talking. Foods that are sugar and carb heavy, and you know my experience here, cause your body's glucose levels to spike, often followed by a crash. This matters because it turns out 88% of us have suboptimal metabolic health. So glucose could be the next big thing to track when it comes to health. That's why we're excited about Lingo, a new biowearable from Abbott that tracks your glucose in real time.
I've been wearing Lingo for weeks now, and I've learned that for my body, if I move around after I eat a meal, my spike is much more gradual, much lower. And so I've learned that I just need to get up and move around after I eat. What works for me might work very differently for you, but that's what works for my body. To see how your body responds to food and learn what you can do to improve your metabolism, try Lingo. It starts at $49 for a 2-week plan, no prescription needed. For a limited time, save 10% on your first order with Happier at HelloLingo.com.
The Lingo glucose system is for users 18 years and older, not on insulin. It is not intended for diagnosis of diseases, including diabetes. For more information, please visit HelloLingo.com/US. This fall, every day is your runway at JCPenney. Whether you're refreshing your wardrobe for a big night out or creating your signature everyday look to rock while you're running errands, JCPenney has the fashion-forward, budget-friendly styles you need to look and feel your best. JCPenney has looks for the whole family, from timeless workwear for mom from Liz Claiborne to Stafford's tailored polished pieces for dad. Or keep it casual with classic options from St. John's Bay. And for trendy youthful styles, Arizona is perfect for juniors.
And don't forget to explore JCPenney Beauty to find your favorite beauty brands or try something new this season. From suiting and sweaters to dressed up denim and utility trends for the whole family, JCPenney has everything you need to express your style. Fall is a pivotal season in fashion, so make the world your runway and get the best styles at the best prices from JCPenney. Shop in-store or online. JCPenney. Make it count. Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we get more happier. You know, it's the weekend. We are kicking back for more happiness with a little bit of a looser vibe. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi, Gretch.
Today we'll talk about why it's a good idea to have a tough conversation face-to-face or by phone, not by text. And we'll talk about a TV-related topic that has fascinated me for a long time, but I never hear anyone talking about. But first, something making us more happier. Elizabeth, what is making you more happier?
Well, Gretch, this is kind of boring, but what is making me more happier is the weather in Los Angeles.
It's classic.
But we had such hot, seriously hot weather. I got into my car once and it was 125 because it had been sitting in the sun.
Wow.
And now it's cooling off. It's our version of fall. It's just so nice. It's much easier to do my Fryman Canyon hike. I don't have to go at 7 a.m. We can go at 9 a.m. after drop off. So I am just very much enjoying that.
What do the corgis do when it's so hot? Do they go outside and play, or is it just too hot for them?
No, it's too hot for them. They stay inside. I mean, they might go out for a few minutes, but no, They don't run around in that heat. And it's harder to walk them, of course, too.
Sure. Right.
So they don't get as many walks. So all around, everybody's happier in this nice weather.
One of the funny things I remember you told me, if I remember correctly, is in the fall, even though it's actually not that cold, people start wearing Uggs and flannel shirts.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny, right? Because it's actually not chilly.
No, absolutely. Everyone breaks out their sweaters, fall, the booties, the colors. Like I wore like a mustard yellow sweater last night, which is very fall.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even though it's LA. That's fun.
Yep.
Yep.
But they'll be wearing sunglasses.
Sure.
With that outfit.
Right.
That's the difference. Or maybe be in a convertible.
Right. That's very funny.
It's really nice. I love summer. I never want the summer to end, but I must say the weather in fall is better.
Sure.
All right, Gretch, what about you? What's making you more happier?
Okay, so listen, we passed 100 day, counting down to the end of the year. So I have been eyeballing my 24 for 24 list with some anxiety because I'm not doing that great. So the one thing I did is I caught up on my photo albums, which this was a huge undertaking because the last time I had done them was September 2023. So it had been a year. And I do it in Shutterfly, and I don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but I still have to upload them and then take out the ones that aren't good. And I have the one where it automatically fills in. And so I don't do much to mess with that, but I still have to go through it and I have to label it and everything. And I caught up. And so, Elizabeth, I did our hiking trip. I did my Japan trip. I did the trip to Kansas City. I did our spring break. So in a way, it's fun because it is fun to review all those photographs, but I let so many build up. But I will say that this is the advantage. Every time I do it, I have to learn how to do it again. And so the advantage of doing many, many albums, I can't make one big album because it's just too big. You can't put it all in one album. Is that it gets easier each time I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, this is the size of the font that can go on the spine and fit. Or I remember to write down all the highlights so that I can put it as kind of a subtitle on the cover, blah, blah, blah. So it gets easier when I do a bunch at once. But of course, it feels very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So there's that trade-off. And here's the thing that kind of annoyed me. Even though we are so far into 2024, the first 2 or maybe 3 albums I did, I labeled everything 2023.
Oh, no.
I told Mom, and she's like, oh, you could use a label maker. And I'm like, I should do that. So at least it looks neat. I tried to go in and edit it, but I'd already put the order through. And so no, I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I was just imagining that I would just handwrite it with a Sharpie and it just like, well, those albums are a little messy looking. You know, it's that handmade look.
Yeah.
But maybe I will try to use a label maker. That would be nice. But, you know, again, I'm trying not to let myself get too annoyed because I really use these as important family diaries and I want to make sure that I keep up with it. And it's arduous.
Right.
And so I can't want it to be so good that I just back away from it altogether.
Well, here's my question. Do you go through and pick which photos you want or you just do all of them?
The way it works with Shutterfly, or at least the way I do it, is in my phone, I pick the ones to upload.
Okay.
Let's say I have a picture. You take a picture of like your parking space or something.
Right.
Those I try to go through and delete.
Okay.
Then there are ones that I'm like, well, I might like to have that as sort of a reference, but I don't want to put it in a photo album. So I do that when I'm figuring out which ones to upload. But basically, I try to keep the photos in my phone pretty pared down.
Oh, you do? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I'm uploading hundreds of pictures.
Okay.
Then it goes into Shutterfly. And then of those, I just mark them all. And then as I'm going through, I might say, you know what, this is basically just another version of the same picture. So I might just take one out. One theory is you have a beautifully curated photo album with just the best pictures of Christmas or something. And you fault me for this, Elizabeth, because I just take a picture to capture a moment and you're like, it's not flattering. You should take a minute and make sure everybody looks good. And I'm like, this is just a reference for me.
I know, but even I will say, Gretch, you have a talent beyond anyone I've ever known to get people with their eyes closed.
Okay, but so this
Almost
is the fun.
Every photo you send is someone, if not everyone, has their eyes closed.
Well, and the funny thing about me is a photographer once said to me personally, oh, you're a blinker. You blink more often than other people, which I've always been extremely puzzled by. But if you look at me, I very often do have my eyes closed. I am trying to school myself to stop and say, let's take a couple so that I have a better chance of getting a good one, or let me take a minute and make everybody look better.
But I do think it really only has to be half a second. I mean, it's not even like, okay, everybody look at me, wait, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
It's just that you literally just hold up your phone and take a photo. You don't spend even half a second.
Yes. And I'm listening to you and I have been trying to get better. I was just saying this the other day, I forget with whom, saying I'm trying to be better about making sure that I'm not just snapping some random thing.
Yeah. Because you sent me some amazing pictures of mom and dad
Yeah.
at your house, but their eyes were closed.
Really?
But other than that, they were fantastic pictures.
Okay. The one of them eating ice cream, I bet, is one of the ones that you're thinking.
Yes.
Okay. So this is good. You're reminding me. I'm going to take the half a second and try to make sure people's eyes are open and like their hair isn't standing straight up in the wind or something.
Yeah. I just think don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just
Right.
a tiny baby step.
But then I will put them in just because what's important to me is that I remember that we went to get ice cream.
Totally.
The fact that it's a flattering picture isn't that important. But now I have all these other ones that I haven't done, but I'll just have to wait until the next time I catch up. And then, of course, when they arrive, I have to do all the labeling because I go through and write captions for everything. So that's a whole second step. But that I can do watching reruns of The Office or Game of Thrones or something. So it's a big job, but the hardest thing is getting the albums made. So I'm happy.
Well, gold star to you for finishing that.
I will take that
Excellent.
gold star. Thank you.
All right, coming up, I've got a happiness lesson from the Real Housewives. But first, this break. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to at work and social settings around our family. Therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask. For me, therapy helped me really find my voice, which is so important when you want to be present and be yourself.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Gretchen Rubin today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gretchen Rubin. Okay, Elizabeth, I mean, with your deep knowledge of the Real Housewives, you're extracting all these lessons. Maybe that's part of why you're my sister to Sage, is your extensive knowledge of all the Real Housewife franchise. What's the latest from all of their hijinks?
Okay, well, this is a lesson that I think we all know, that we've all been told time and time again, but yet I learned it anew watching The Real Housewives recently, which is don't text negative things.
Oh, yeah.
This is a lesson we probably should all hear every day because it's so hard not to text negative things. This both goes for if you're complaining about someone or if you're in an argument with someone. Here's what they do, which is really diabolical, and you and I would not do this.
Okay.
But what they do is, say you text me something negative about somebody else.
Okay.
They'll take a screenshot of that and then hold on to it until the time when they might reveal that text to the other person. So that is not nice.
You think Elizabeth thinks you're great. Well, look at this screenshot where she says that your tablescapes are cliche.
Yeah.
So your own words can be
Used against you. Now that I don't think anyone in my life would do. But there are other reasons not to do it. I mean, one, there's always the fear, Gretch. We all know what happens, that you text the wrong person.
Oh, we've all done it. We've all done it.
it.
And every time I've done it, I've been so happy that it was just some innocuous thing like, what time are you getting home?
Right.
I just did that the other day. I meant to text you, Elizabeth, but I had just been texting with my friend Lisa. I just sent it to her.
Right. No, it happens.
Why? I don't even know.
All the time.
Yeah.
Also, and I know people this has happened to, your texts can be, subpoenaed in a lawsuit that you're not even involved in. It's just some tangential thing. And then suddenly your texts are out there to be consumed, by others.
I just have to say,
Yeah.
that sounds so improbable. If somebody had said to me, what's the likelihood that some of your texts are going to get pulled into a lawsuit? I would be like,
Right.
That's just not likely. Like, there are many things to worry about in this world. That's not something that's going to happen. We both know people where that's happened to them in the most unpredictable, unforeseeable way. And it wasn't like they got in legal trouble for this, but it still can be really embarrassing because it's just stuff that you didn't expect that other people would see.
Yes.
And maybe nobody would think anything of it except the 10 people who mean the most to you.
Exactly.
To whom it's huge information. I think a healthy dose of paranoia is just not unhealthy here.
Yes. And what's interesting is the reason I think it's so hard to not do this is because we just don't talk on the phone very much anymore. I rarely talk on the phone to friends. I may text them almost every day or several times a day.
Because if somebody calls you, it's an emergency. If a friend calls me, my heart sinks immediately because I'm like, oh my gosh, she needs me to run over to her house because she's had to rush to the hospital and she realized she left a pot on the stove or something like that.
Yes.
They're not calling to be like, hey, what's up?
Right, which is what we all used to do all the time. So anyway, I haven't really figured out a solution for that. I mean, I know the kids like Snapchat. Sometimes Sarah and I will write back and forth to each other in Google Docs during a meeting if we have to say things to each other, and it's easier to just then erase it. But it's an ongoing issue of that people want to communicate certain things, venting, complaining, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And texting is just not a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So reminder, PSA from the Real Housewives who do it to each other all the time.
Sometimes the best way to learn a lesson like that is to see somebody else screw up. And then you're like, ooh, I see how that could happen. And so it's nice when it happens to some people that you don't even know, so you don't have to worry about them. And they're operating on such a different level that it's fine for them, in a way.
Exactly. They have a TV show to do.
Yes.
All right, Gretch, what is this week's Spotlight on a Tool?
Okay, well, the holiday season is coming up. We can see it coming on the horizon. I think a lot of us are starting to think about our gift-giving lists and the things that we would like to ask for ourselves. So sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what somebody would want. So to make this easier, I have created a gift-giving quiz. So you take this quiz with a recipient in mind, and you answer according to what you know about this person. And it's all things that you know about somebody in your life. And you find out if they're an easy to please, a tried and true, an enthusiast, or a connoisseur. And then it suggests the kind of gifts that those types of people tend to like. And I have to say that there's just something about seeing it. A lot of times the examples are not exactly the examples that I give, but it sparks ideas because you're like, oh, yeah, they don't want this, but they want that. So I think it's a super fun quiz. It's at happiercast.com/quiz with all my other quizzes. This was a quiz that came out of a side interest that I developed when I was writing Life in Five Senses, because gifts are something that are often tied to the five senses. And so it got me interested in understanding what kinds of gifts people like and how people have different preferences around gifts. So anyway, I love that quiz. I think it's super fun.
Yes, all quizzes are good quizzes.
All quizzes are fun, right?
Okay, Gretch, coming up, there's something you've been meaning to ask me about how I watch television. But first, this break. You know how sometimes a meal leaves you energized and other times sluggish, foggy, or even hungrier? That may be your glucose talking. Foods that are sugar and carb heavy, and you know my experience here, cause your body's glucose levels to spike, often followed by a crash. This matters because it turns out 88% of us have suboptimal metabolic health. So glucose could be the next big thing to track when it comes to health. That's why we're excited about Lingo, a new biowearable from Abbott that tracks your glucose in real time.
I've been wearing Lingo for weeks now, and I've learned that for my body, if I move around after I eat a meal, my spike is much more gradual, much lower. And so I've learned that I just need to get up and move around after I eat. What works for me might work very differently for you, but that's what works for my body. To see how your body responds to food and learn what you can do to improve your metabolism, try Lingo. It starts at $49 for a 2-week plan, no prescription needed. For a limited time, save 10% on your first order with Happier at HelloLingo.com.
The Lingo glucose system is for users 18 years and older not on insulin. It is not intended for diagnosis of diseases, including diabetes. For more information, please visit hellolingo.com/US. Gretchen, you know I love quince.
Mm-hmm.
And as summer turns to fall, even here in LA, it's getting cooler. I love slipping into my quince cozy sweaters. In fact, I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing one of my cashmere tees. I absolutely love all of their cashmere. They're known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from just $50. And it's not just that. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
Well, and how do they do that? By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, which passes the saving on to us, the consumer. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/Gretchen for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Gretchen to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Gretchen.
This show is sponsored by MIDI Health. Gretch, I hang out with a lot of women and we have a lot of conversations. And one thing that every woman shares is that eventually she's going to go through menopause and perimenopause. And people talk about the hot flashes, the insomnia, the brain fog, the moodiness, the weight gain. Well, MIDI clinicians are menopause experts equipped to support you with safe, effective, FDA-approved medications, as well as supplements, lifestyle coaching, and preventative health guidance.
All their services are covered by insurance, and they're conveniently accessible through telehealth visits and 24/7 messaging. You know, when we need help, we want to know that we can come out of an experience feeling heard, with a plan to start feeling better, with people who are really experts in their field. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. Okay, listen, this is a minor know yourself better question, but then I'm also going to exploit your brain. Okay, so here's the know yourself better question. And I honestly don't know this about you. If you're watching a TV show and at the beginning it's like previously on Fantasy Island or previously on Game of Thrones or whatever, do you watch the previously or do you skip the previously?
I only watch if I need to. So
okay.
Game of Thrones, yes. If I'm watching a show that, especially if I'm watching more than one episode in a row, I know what just happened.
Right.
So I don't watch it to watch it. I only watch it if I feel like if I don't, I will have no clue what's going on.
Right. Okay. See, this is interesting because that's the way Jamie is. He will just automatically skip the previously. Is there a word for this, by the way?
Previously on, yes.
That's what it's called, a previously on? Okay. He'll skip it. And I'm always begging him to watch it, and I affirmatively enjoy it. Even if I was binge watching Mad Men 4 episodes in an evening, I like it. And I wonder if that's because, I love to reread and I love to rewatch. So maybe rewatching previously, I just get that same pleasure of review from them. And then I also do forget quite easily and need it if it's a show that's complicated or it's been a while. But even if it's something that I know well, I will watch it and enjoy it.
Well, and a lot of times really good moments are chosen. So it makes sense that they would be enjoyable to rewatch if you like to rewatch things.
Okay, so here's the other thing that I wanted to ask. So
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, I so enjoy previously on, but you never hear anybody talk about it. And yet it seems like they must be really important because they are like a highlight reel. They're super important in making sure the audience enjoys them. Their time of the episode, which is so precious. So, and then I was like, I wish I knew somebody who would know anything about this. And I do, because my own sister, tell me, what is the deal with these things? Is it a big deal? Is a lot of care taken with these?
Yes. So previously ons are a whole category of things that we deal with in television.
That makes sense.
So there's a few things to say. One, a lot of people feel that they can be a barrier to entry for new viewers. So oftentimes the philosophy is don't have one in a show unless you're really going to need it, because it might make people feel like they can't drop in because they need to have seen what comes before.
Wait, so a show might, I know that with The Office, they don't always have it, but They only do it if it's part 1, part 2. But so sometimes the show will have it sometimes and not others.
Usually they either have it or don't, but it
Right.
is possible that sometimes they could have it and sometimes not. There are different ways to do them. We had a show where we like farmed them out to somebody. We paid a certain amount and they just did them. That's what they did. We also, usually it falls on the editors to do them, and it's a big pain. A lot of times assistant editors do them. You
Training.
throw it to the assistant editor, but you do often have to have a meeting to say, okay, what elements do we need in this
Sure.
previously on? Now, the length is a whole other thing because often episodes are too long and you have to like cut. And so you want to keep them as short as you can so that you have more time for the actual episode, like you
Sure.
mentioned.
Right.
Now, I will say there have also times where an episode could come in short for whatever reason. Something just
right.
didn't work out.
Yeah.
It was an expensive episode, which means you shot less. In that case, they could be a little bit longer than they need to be. You could pad it for 10, 15 seconds.
It's a little bit of a buffer there.
Yes, and another insight into that is sometimes on Fantasy Island, because it was a show that because of our budget often came in short, we would do a next week on as well.
Oh, interesting.
To add 20 seconds. Like, here's what's coming up next week, which people like, I think. I think people like the next week on a lot.
Sure.
Normally, you just don't have time for it.
Well, because it's a teaser and people love teasers. People like to know. Well, and especially with a show like Fantasy Island, where each of the little stories was intriguing on its own. And so then you'd be like, ooh, I can't wait to see about that mother-daughter.
Yes. So they are a whole world unto themselves. I really admire those editors who put them together because it's a real hassle. Because also keep in mind, you have to go find all this stuff.
Yeah.
In the episodes, decide how much you need of it. You know what I mean? It's a whole to-do.
Well, and then sometimes, and again, I'm thinking of Game of Thrones where there's so many characters and there's so many different storylines going. Sometimes it would be like over multiple seasons.
Yes.
Where it would be like somebody, especially at the beginning of a season, you would have Cersei from season 1 saying something to set the scene for season 4. So to me, as somebody who loves rewatching, it really did seem very complicated in terms of how would you pick those moments.
Yes. And usually what you do is you just think, what basic things do people need to know to drop into this episode today?
Right.
You're hoping that by watching the previously on, anybody could follow what's going on.
Oh, well, okay. So this is my last question then. So is the previously on really for the viewer who's scripted away and now is back as a reminder, or is for a new viewer who needs certain information in order to engage for the first time? Or does that not matter?
It doesn't really matter, I guess, in terms of how you do it, but realistically, it's going to be for the person who needs to catch up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who's usually watching the show.
Yeah, right.
More than a new viewer.
Right.
But it's nice if a new viewer could get that out of it.
Sure. If Jamie really likes the show, he might say like, oh, I think you'd like it too, but you can just jump in.
Right.
And then he will take pity on me and let me have a couple of previously ons.
Good.
Because if I'm not going to go back and watch the first season, I'm just going to join in.
Yeah.
Then that's true. Because a lot of times it's because somebody else has been watching the whole time and then you're joining as a viewer. Interesting.
Yes.
Well, this is so interesting. And I'm glad to know that they're called previously ons.
Yes. At least that's what we call it. That's what everybody I know calls it.
Okay.
All right, Gretch, what is our quotation this week?
Okay, this is a lightly edited quotation from one of my favorite pieces of writing of all time. It's an essay called Charles Dickens by George Orwell. But you will see that he's not only talking about Charles Dickens, he's also talking about Leo Tolstoy. And here's what he writes. Why is it that Tolstoy's grasp seems to be so much larger than Dickens's? Why is it that he seems able to tell you so much more about yourself? It is not that he is more gifted or even, in the last analysis, more intelligent. It is because he is writing about people who are growing. His characters are struggling to make their souls, whereas Dickens's are already finished and perfect. In my own mind, Dickens's people are present far more often and far more vividly than Tolstoy's, but always in a single, unchangeable attitude, like pictures or pieces of furniture. It is because Dickens's characters have no mental life. Does this mean Tolstoy's novels are better than Dickens's? I should say that Tolstoy's appeal will probably be wider in the long run, because Dickens is scarcely intelligible outside the English-speaking culture. On the other hand, Dickens is able to reach simple people, which Tolstoy is not. Tolstoy's characters can cross a frontier. Dickens's can be portrayed on a cigarette card, but one is no more obliged to choose between them than between a sausage and a rose. Their purposes barely intersect. I love that. The sausage and the rose. I use that line all the time. There's just no comparison. It's a sausage and a rose.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
So, Elizabeth, are you feeling more happier?
Yes, I am feeling more happier. Thank you to Chuck. Get in touch. Gretchen's on Threads, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Gretchen Rubin, and I'm on Threads and Instagram at Liz Craft. Our email address is podcast@GretchenRubin.com. And for everything related to this episode, links, photos, and more, go to happiercast.com. Bye, Gretch.
Bye, Elizabeth. The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Elizabeth, can you sit in a car that's 125 degrees? Can you put your hands on the steering wheel?
It's very hot. It can be really hard. It reminds me, though, of in Kansas City. I don't know if you remember when we'd go to the pool and then we'd come out.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd have to sit on towels in the car because the seats were so hot.
Yeah,
It's
it would
kinda
burn.
like
It would
that.
burn our legs. Yeah, no,
It's like
yeah.
that. But
Wow.
you're barely touching the steering wheel sometimes till it cools down.
From the Onward Project.
Let's talk about a small thing that can make a big difference if you have diabetes, the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor. It's amazing how the sensor gives you real-time glucose readings so you can see the impact of every meal and activity to make better choices.
The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help you live life with diabetes on your terms. This is progress. You can try it for free at freestylelibre.us. Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.